Okay, so on to our next principle now. This is the I of Solid, and that stands for interface segregation. So the idea of this is we should prefer more smaller, more specific interfaces to a single large interface. Now, this is for a couple of reasons. Firstly, imagine if you want to provide a new implementation of an interface, then when presented with one very, very large interface, not all of those methods may be relevant to your new implementation. You're being forced to implement far too many methods. And I've seen this in systems before where you have methods that are left blank with comments like not applicable for this instance. Or perhaps methods that throw an exception should that method ever get called. The other side to this problem occurs from thinking about the clients of these interfaces, or the interface. If you only have a single very large interface, then it makes it very hard to make changes to the implementations of that interface. Because there's no information hiding, each client is free to use whatever they want from that interface. You end up with a lot of clients of the interface, and you don't really know what each client is doing. You have to go through and look at all of that client code to work out how they interact with that interface. Whereas if you had more specific interfaces, it should be very clear what the contract of those interfaces is, so you'll be in a much better position to assess the impact of any changes you make to your code. So, to give an example, you can see here we have a person class, which includes name, email, phone. And we have an email gateway that uses the person class to send a message via email to that person. And we have a telephone gateway, which allows you to place a phone call to that person. Now, the problem with this is that both the email gateway and telephone gateway use the same person class, but they really only need to use specific parts of that person's data. They don't need access to the full amount of data about that person. So the telephone gateway only needs the phone number, and the email gateway only needs the email address. So it would be far better to split this out into a couple of interfaces, emailable, dialable, in this case, that really just provide those gateway classes with the smallest amount of information that they need. So the person class will now be loosely coupled to those email and telephone gateway classes, whereas before there was a high degree of coupling, and person was exposing all of the information to those gateways, making it a lot harder to change. And also when you come to testing those classes, then you'll find yourself having to provide a lot more test data than you need when testing the email and telephone gateway classes, which again is just increasing the burden on the developer continually whilst trying to develop in this way.